Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast today. I'm your host, Gabrielle Hiller, and if this is your first time tuning into the Bespoken Faith podcast, welcome. We are on episode 3, and I am sharing my life story with you guys. So if you haven't listened to the first couple of episodes, I would recommend listening to those before you listen to this one. If you are tuning in on YouTube, the setup is a little bit different. I'm trying different setups in pretty much every time I film, I set it up a little bit differently. So I really like this setup. I've been trying to figure out like the best place I could sit, where I'm comfortable, where the lighting is okay. I put a little candle there. I think my stepbrother got me that for Christmas last year, and I just wanted a little something in the background to enhance something over there. But yeah, I'm sitting in front of a window. I have my light there. I feel like, this is probably the best place for me to sit and film. I feel like this might even be a good place for me to film at night. I might have to add another light, but it probably is the most comfortable and best place for me to film. So I hope we're liking this little setup. I tried to do my hair like, I don't know, Emily Kaiser, I think is her name. I wanted to do like a cute little bun or something. So in this episode, I am going to be sharing with you more of how God began to work in my life and the decisions I made since putting my faith in Him. So before I get into all of that, pause this if you need to grab a drink or a snack maybe. Get comfy, get ready to listen. If you are driving or doing something, then I hope that I will make your commute a little bit better, make the time go by a little bit faster. So yeah, I will see you in 1 minute.
You have a voice. You should use it. You serve a God who gave you a gift. You should share it. You have the ability to create. Go create something. Hi, I'm Gabrielle Beth, and you're listening to the Bespoken Faith podcast. My hope is to share truth, give advice, or even tell funny, not so funny stories. I may even share some poetry with y'all from time to time. So whatever we're talking about, I hope you feel welcome. And don't forget to love generously, be spoken, and have faith.
So my life continues. Now it is the year 2018. Holy smokes, I cannot believe that was 5 years ago. But I was invited to go to a Christian conference called Kingdom Domain. It took place in Asheville, North Carolina. I actually wanted to go again this year, but it was actually in California this year. That's where the church that hosts this event is placed. They're actually in California, but I guess they partnered with a conference center in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm not exactly sure how they chose Asheville, but yeah, it used to be in Asheville, but this year it was in California, so I didn't get to go. I've only been to this conference one time. This conference is a 3-day event. You can go one day if you want to. If I went this year, I would have only went for 1 day because it is a little bit expensive and it's a lot of redundancy. Like you worship for like 2 hours at the beginning of every service, and there's 3 services. So you're there like worshiping, taking in lessons, worshiping, and it is a whole lot. So you definitely have to prepare your spirit before going into that. I wasn't sure what to expect. I know I was just like on fire for God, ready to learn what I could learn about Him, and my oh my, I learned so much. If you've never been to like a Christian conference, it is life-changing. I will say that. It is so cool. I just remember like seeing people getting delivered, like miraculously delivered, like demons were manifesting in people. And like if you've never seen that, it's one of those things that like you can YouTube it and watch a YouTube video, but like seeing it in person is totally different. It is so like, oh my gosh, like this stuff is actually so real. And we battle with spirits every single day. We can't see the spiritual realm, so sometimes we forget like how real it is. That's a completely different topic. But yeah, I saw a lot of God's goodness there. I got baptized in the fire of the Holy Spirit there, and it was just so incredibly cool just to be there and have that experience. But yeah, just witnessing all of that and like people being slain in the spirit. And like when people are slain in the spirit, they fall over, like they faint or something. I don't know exactly what happens. I wanted that to happen to me. Like I was like, God, please knock me over. Please let me be like hit so hard by the spirit that I just fall over. But like I never had an experience like that. So yeah, there was a giant move of God at this event. You know the song, Our God is an awesome God. Like it is so true. Like our God is such an awesome God. And the more you like grow in God, the more you want to continue to grow in God. So I come back from this event. Meanwhile, I'm still sort of a baby Christian at this point. Like at this time, like I thought I knew everything. Like I thought I knew my life purpose. I thought I just knew it all. But I learned, like even still today, that Christianity doesn't look just one way. And there's so much to this Christian walk. Like it really is all about just learning and developing who you are as a person and just like growing and continuing to grow and continuing to walk in Christ. Like that's why they call it a relationship, right? Like you can't just like go to church on Sunday and like learn from your pastor on Sunday and like expect your life to change. Like you really need to spend time with God daily, grow in him every single day. I will be the first to say that I wasn't always this way. I wasn't always like putting God first in every decision I made. I still like suck at being a human being, but you know, some people are slow learners. I'm a little bit slow, and you know, God knows that he needs my full attention in some areas of my life. So right now where I am, God has my full attention, but it wasn't always that way. I feel like I'm starting to get like off topic, but God is something that I'm very, very passionate about. And I guess it's a little bit too late for a disclaimer, but if you're not a religious person or you don't believe in God or you're very skeptical about God, like I still encourage you to listen to this message today. Who knows what you could take away from it? Just whether you believe God is real, God's not real, you believe in God but you're struggling in your faith, like just I hope and I pray that you can take something away from the message that I'm sharing with you all today. I put one of those like water bottle packets into my water because I get so tired of drinking just water. So I put like a green tea mango packet in here, and it is so strong. It's also caffeinated. I didn't know it was that caffeinated. It has like 130 milligrams of caffeine, but I was like, I don't want to take aminoline because I don't want that much caffeine, but like, I don't know. I might be a little bit jittery, but it's okay. So yeah, I came back from Kingdom Domain. I felt like I was a completely new Gabby. I was so in love with Jesus. Like, you know, you just feel this kind of like hit of dopamine. You just want to like scream Jesus at the top of every mountain and just share Jesus with the world. And that's what I wanted to do. So I hadn't even been a whole year since I moved to North Carolina. So I was still kind of like in fellowship with the church that I used to go to in New Jersey. My grandparents were still living in New Jersey, so I went up there to visit them, and I went to the church, and I like shared this incredible message that touched many people, and it was so simple. The only thing I said was, we can't have a relationship with Jesus only on Sundays. We need to have a relationship with him every single day. Our spirits are thirsty, they're hungry, and we need to honor God and give our entire life to him. We can't just only serve God on Sundays. That was basically the whole message. But so many people came up to me after that service and they thanked me for what I had to say, and I was like, you're welcome, I guess. Like I've just felt like God was using me in that moment, and like that's after that I got this idea that I wanted to be a public speaker and like talk to people and share the gospel with people. And I'm like, whenever I ask God like what it is he wants me to do, I always have it in the back of my mind that I want to be on social media, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, my podcast, I even have done a little bit of writing. I haven't published anything yet, but like, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out exactly where it is that God wants me, but I feel like he's always kind of tugging on my shoulder, like, post on social media, like, use your platform. You can reach so many people through your platform. Like, you don't have to just go to events or just talk at like Bible studies or something. And the thing is, guys, like, I'm not an outgoing person. Like, if you meet me in person, I'm so flipping awkward. I am so shy. I almost have this demeanor of like, I don't really like you, but like, I'm actually just incredibly shy and a little bit insecure. Oh, by the way, I'm not wearing any face makeup today. I'm barely wearing any eye makeup, and it's because my skin has been breaking out like the dickens, and I'm like just so sick and tired of it breaking out. Like, I have no idea what's breaking me out, but I have a feeling that my concealer and like bronzer and all that stuff don't help my skin. So like, also sorry that, I'm not the most put together today, but I still have to come here. I still have to record this podcast, so I'm not going to put off recording my podcast just because I can't put on makeup. But, looks aren't the most important thing in the world. So I bet you nobody cares about my appearance the way I do, People might watch this and be like, oh, like, her skin is so bad or whatever. But, like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry I'm not more beautiful. But I am working on it. I'm trying to take care of my skin. So, yeah. So I feel like there's a lot more I could say about my spiritual growth, because the more you learn and the more you grow in your relationship with Jesus, the more you see how differently Christians can be. And by different, I mean some are very into the prophetic life. I went to a prophetic ministry school. I learned that as much as I tried to really hear God and try to like hear God enough to be able to give prophetic words, and I would like step up to people and be like, hey, I feel like God like told me to tell you this. Like, I feel like I don't have that gifting or that calling in the prophetic. But some people are evangelical, some are very into the gift of healing and going into the streets and praying for people and sharing the gospel with people on the streets. Other people are just very into growing in their relationship with God and walking in holiness and praying for people. There's saints who are prayer warriors. And these types of Christians will dedicate certain hours of the day to fasting, to praying, to just seeking God with their entire being. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm listing these things because there's so much to this Christian walk and like so many different things that you can really tap into. And the more you learn about stuff, the more you start to think like, like, what is my calling? What is my gifting? I'm sharing all of this too because I'm a very indecisive person. That's kind of why I haven't like stuck with a legit career, because I want what God wants for me. I want a career with purpose, something that I can wake up every day and be proud to attend that job and do it wholeheartedly. And so when I started learning all about this Christian stuff, I started to think like, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to become? And I thought for a while that I wanted to join the mission field, because I started learning about it and I was like, wow, like I totally want to do that. So that's when I enrolled in that prophetic ministry school. They had a ministry program, an outdoor missions training program. And through that program, we were supposed to go to Haiti, which I would have loved to do just because I really wanted to dip my toes into that type of life and see a third world country like firsthand. But that didn't happen. Instead, we went to the British Virgin Islands, which I'm not complaining about that because, I mean, it was a beautiful trip and I feel like our many hands made light work, and that was just such an incredible trip. I also went to Louisiana for disaster relief, and I went to Florida to also help with a car show for their ministry. So I've had my small experiences with helping and serving, but there's still part of me that like wants to go more into it. So I haven't really explored that because you have to balance like Christian life with real life. it would be really frowned upon if I were to just quit my job, quit everything, and just go to Africa or Haiti or Mexico and commit my life to missions. Like, there's supposed to be a regular American way of living, and it's like hard to balance the two. So yeah, it took me a really long time to figure out what it exactly means to be a Christian, what it exactly means to give your life to Christ. And for a little while, I wouldn't say for a long time, but for a little while, I almost wanted like nothing to do with Christianity, because it seemed like it, in a sense, like ruined my life. Because you guys, like, I can't remember if I mentioned this yet. I don't think I've been there yet. Well, before I moved to North Carolina, I had my life set. I was with the love of my life. I chose a career path that I could have totally seen myself doing for the next like 20, 30 years. I felt like I was in a place where I could have been successful and very, very happy and content. On the other side of the coin though, like, I was not happy and I wasn't content with my life. And in some ways I look back and I'm like, man, like, I wish I never moved. Like, I wish I never changed careers. Like, I feel like part of me lives with some sort of like regret, but also if I never took that risk of leaving my ex, quitting my job, and just discovering what it is that God wants for me and discovering like my own happiness, I would still be in the same place. And had I never made these decisions, like, would I be happy actually? Like, would my marriage have lasted? Would I still be working in a hair salon or, you know, running my own business as a hairstylist? Like, I'll never know the answer to those questions, but what I do know is I am happy that like whatever I've went through in life has led me to this moment right now. Like, I'm sitting here recording this video right now because of the other decisions and things that took place in my life. So I'm very blessed. You know, I can't really dwell so much on the past or the bad, but all I can say is like, God has a plan for every single person. You know, whether you've made a 10 zillion mistakes, just know that God, like, He's always merciful and He always has a plan, and God will never leave you or forsake you. It says that in His word. So that is a constant thing that I always have to remind myself of, because as human beings, it's so easy to forget and just turn to our own strength or own decisions to get us out of a rut or out of a pickle or whatever. God's word also says everything works together for those who love Him. I think that's what it says. I'm going to put it on the screen. I don't remember exactly what it says, but I know there's a verse that says that everything works together for good for those that love Him. And so you could either choose to continue to follow God and see what happens and know that things are probably going to turn out much better for you if you just continue to follow God and trust Him with your life, versus saying like, oh, this Christianity, it has gotten me into such a mess. I don't even want to trust in God anymore. I don't want to follow Him. It's just not gonna be a life full of promise. Like, you can, you know, land a job where you make $100,000 a year. You can have the best health, the best family, the best life, but that life, it is not fulfilling. It is not full of promises. A life with Christ is where it's at. Something I always remind myself is like, we're on this earth for 80, 90, 100 years maybe, but we have all of eternity with Christ in heaven. So whether you're poor or rich on earth, just know that like your life is so short and it's fleeting. It passes so quickly, and in the blink of an eye you're gonna be old. You're gonna reflect back on your life and be like, yeah, wow, I can't believe I'm already here. One thing I learned very, very recently is the time is gonna pass regardless. Just know that at the end of your life, you have to answer for the decisions that you've made. So anywho, I say all that to say it took me a while to figure out that like a Christian life doesn't always look the same. In fact, it looks incredibly different for everybody. We can't put God in a box. Every person has their own different relationship with Christ, and God can look different to other people. But what I do know is every person is created and born with a purpose for their life, but we are all meant to be different. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Moving on. So as I mentioned, I went to that ministry college and joined the ministry training program, trained us up to be missionaries, and put us in the mindset of if we ever did have to go into missions, we will know how to prepare for conditions. So like in America, everything is so comfortable, right? Like I was chilly today, so I put on a sweater. But if I was in like a country and all I had was a t-shirt and I got a little bit chilly, I have to just deal with it. Or like in the other way, heat. There are places that are incredibly hot, so you're just sweating all day long and you don't have an AC to go into, you don't have a nice pool to take a swim in, you just have to deal with the heat and deal with your own smell, deal with your sweaty clothing, like that's the type of stuff that you have to mentally prepare for. How you're going to prepare meals, how you're going to survive on, packaged food sometimes. You're really making a true sacrifice when you go into the mission field, but your reward is very, very great on earth and in heaven. So anyway, I joined this school with my friend Liliana, who told me about it. Liliana was the one who also invited me to Kingdom Domain. I went to this school with Liliana, who took the worship course, and her sister Victoria, who was in this special forces course with me. And I just gotta say, like, without Victoria, like, that course would have not been the same. She made the course so much more fun, and I feel like we got really close from that. But yeah, this course was actually called Special Forces, and it was inspired by the military because we would get up at 6 a.m. and go out to the field and do these intense training sessions. It didn't matter if it was 10 degrees outside, if it was raining, we still had to show up there and commit an hour of our morning to these training sessions. And that really was super awesome, not just for the mental aspect, but for the physical aspect as well. Because, like, I'm not the best in shape. In fact, like, I don't even think I can run an entire mile without stopping anymore. I really have to get back into running. This course, like, it really built up my endurance, my mental strength, my discipline, everything. And I almost want to take something like that again because, like, as you get older, it's so hard to hold yourself accountable and stay disciplined. That was an incredible course. I loved my team so much. There was 10 of us. So I want to share you a little story about the very first hike that we had to go on in this course. So we were preparing to go on this hike. We were given very minimal details about the hike itself. The only thing that I remember hearing was we would be provided food and food. The other thing that we were told was that we could pack whatever we thought we would need. And that was it. By the way, I promised the instructor of the school that I would never share this information publicly. That instructor, number one, doesn't even work at that school anymore. And number two, if you are planning on enrolling in Morningstar University and they still have this outdoor leadership missionary training, this is your warning to stop listening to this right now because I don't want to spoil any experiences for you. This was my favorite hike that I've ever went on. I hiked with this program for 3 years, and every time somebody asked me, so what was your all-time favorite hike? I always said selection hike, this very first hike that we went on. And I'm about to share with you why, but I don't want to spoil any experiences for anybody who might be taking this course. So please don't spoil it for yourself. I don't keep in touch with the school anymore. I don't know if they even still have this program going, but yeah, this is your warning. Okay. By the way, this hike is called Selection Hike because if you for some reason need to be pulled out from this hike, you would be disqualified and thus have to drop out of the program. So the day of the hike rolls around. We show up at noon at the field like we are told to. First thing we are told to do is grab our packs and unpack everything from the packs and lay it out so that the instructor and the helpers on the hike would be able to see everything that we brought with us to make sure that we were good to go. And again, I didn't pack much because I didn't want much on my back. I did pack an entire Ziploc of granola bars, some dried mango, and some peanut butter crackers. I also packed a poncho, a sleeping bag, a headlamp, extra pairs of socks and undies, and 2 outfits, one of which would be for sleeping because I knew I would be sweating during the day, and the last thing you want to do is sleep in your sweaty clothes from hiking all day. I also packed a toothbrush, toothpaste, baby wipes, and deodorant, the essentials. After the inspection, we were told to repack our packs. Then we had to do a rescue training. We were taught what to do if someone were to become injured, how to examine the body, neck, and head for any wounds, and how to carry someone on a stretcher. We were given a medic pack that was full of any supplies we would ever need on this hike, and we were given details on that. This pack had also like emergency blankets, EpiPens, bandages, feminine products, like pretty much anything medical was in that pack. It had aspirin, ibuprofen, all that good stuff. After the rescue training, we loaded up the vans, said a prayer, and began our journey to Pisgah National Forest. On the way, we stopped at Cracker Barrel for dinner. Then we stopped at Walmart for one last bathroom break. During that time in Walmart, I was by the jackets and I was looking at them, contemplating like, should I get a jacket? I mean, it's kind of chilly and I know like the temperature's only going to drop, but I'm also going to get too hot hiking and like, I don't want to have to lug this jacket with me during the day when it's hot. And one of the boys came over and he like did this on one of the sleeves of the jacket and he was like, man, oh man, do I wish I had one of these on my selection hike. That should have been the only sign I needed to grab one of those jackets. But I was like, I really like don't want to spend another $30. Like, it was only $30. I should have just grabbed the stupid jacket, right? But I didn't. I sadly didn't. So we leave Walmart with only my light little hoodie on my back, and we went to the trailhead. By this time, y'all, it was very dark out. I want to say we pulled up at like 9:30 at night. It was dark, okay? It was like way past the regular hiking time. We exit the van, and our instructor, Mr. Plowman, goes, "You have 2 minutes to find your pack and grab what you think you might need to get through the night. Go." I quickly ran to my pack. I grabbed that bag of snacks that I told y'all about. I stuffed my toothbrush and toothpaste in that bag and stuck it on the waistband of my pants. It's really funny looking back on pictures because I look absolutely pregnant. I have all my snacks stuffed in the waistband of my pants, but hey, you do what you have to do. Plowman told us that we would see our bags at the campsite once we got there. So at first we think he's doing us a favor, like, oh, okay, this is like the very first hike we're going on. Like, he doesn't want us to have to lug our packs. What a nice guy. So we start the hike into the dark forest. Everyone is high on adrenaline and excitement. Like, we just got here. We just got robbed from our packs. Like, let's do this thing. We hike and we hike and we hike. At one point, we get to the top of a very like flat rock and we take a break there. And I just remember looking up at the stars and thinking, wow, this is so breathtaking. I just like looked up and I took all the mental pictures I could take because that was just such an incredible moment. And oh, I loved it. That was my favorite part of the hike, besides the ending. I think only me, Victoria, and like 2 other people were able to grab snacks out of their packs. And so we sat there and we rationed our snacks with one another. I handed out dried pieces of mango. I think Victoria had like dried banana that she brought with her and she handed some of those out. And we just sat there gazing up at the stars, and there is nothing like sitting on top of a mountain at night and just looking at the stars, eating dried mango. Like, oh, it was beautiful. So sadly, we had to get up and continue hiking to camp. When we show up to camp, there is a fire crackling and a couple boxes of MREs. Meals ready to eat, I think is what that stands for. Plowman says, get something to eat, grab some shut-eye. I will see you in the morning. Our shelter was a tarp. Hi, Mateo. And Kitty came to say hello. Hi, Mateo. There wasn't anything to make an actual shelter. All 10 of us huddled as closely as we could to one another. It was just so cold. Like we were all shivering, sleeping next to each other. I think I only got like maybe 1 hour of sleep that night, if that. So after trying to sleep for a couple of hours, I was like, forget this. I'm just gonna get up. I added some more sticks to the fire and got it, really going. And one of the guys was sleeping with a rock on his chest, like trying to keep himself warm. And the next morning, probably at around 8 a.m., everybody got up, and we began our next adventure. By the way, that hike from that night was 12 miles. The hike that we would be doing today was 12 miles. Then we hiked another 8 miles after that. So all of that training outside really, really paid off. So to complete a 32-mile hike in 3 days with nothing but the clothes on our backs was an incredible task. We endured through so much pain, but it was an awesome experience that I'm glad to have because I will never forget that experience. So why was that my favorite hike, you ask? Out of all the hikes, I got to see the beautiful mountains in the snow. I got to camp on a beach next to the ocean. That one was my favorite because it was something straight out of a movie. It was such a thrill, and all I can think was like, man, when will I ever have this experience again? Like, I can duplicate those experiences of like hiking in the winter, camping on the beach. Like, I can do those. I will never have that experience of like being completely robbed and having the wool brought over my eyes. Like, what just happened? Like, I will never have that experience. So it was definitely a lot of fun. And also just seeing like how strong you can be when you're thrown into a situation like that, because like, man, I did things that I never thought I could do, and I accomplished things that if I were to take that same hike today, I don't know if I could make it to the end, but I was able to do it then, and I'm very thankful for that. The reason why our packs were taken away at the beginning of that hike is because we needed to learn what it was like to be uncomfortable, to not have a comfortable place to sleep, to hike mile after mile and be completely, and I mean completely, exhausted, only to get up a few hours later and continue hiking, to only be given preserved, not so good food to eat. When you're taken out of your comfort zone, you learn to dig deep inside of you for strength you didn't know was even there. You learn to pray and ask God to strengthen you. And you learn what it's like to work with a team. And the memories after that were just as good. The only time I wanted to tap out during any hike on this program was our winter hike. Yes, it was beautiful, and yes, it was an awesome experience, but it was negative 25 degrees. And as like physically prepared as you think you are, like think again, because I thought I had everything, but I was still frigid on that hike. On the very first night, I was in my sleeping bag and I was shivering, and I was like weeping in my sleeping bag because I was so cold. I was just so tired of my toes being numb. And Victoria heard me, and she woke up and she actually massaged my feet and gave me a set of toe warmers and a set of socks. I am so sure I would have tapped out of that. So thankfully, the sweet angel of a friend, even though I disturbed her sleep, got up and rubbed my feet for me so that I wouldn't have to cry miserably in my sleeping bag. The other biggest challenge of this program was completing a 72-mile hike in 72 hours. And I think the best part out of that entire experience was getting to work with a team and knowing what it's like to work with an incredible team of like-minded Christians, and at the same time, like, rely on God to give you strength and direction in like which way you're supposed to go and like how you're gonna get through to the next day. Because sometimes like you can't see to the next day because you're so focused on right now and the pain that you're feeling right now, but tomorrow is still gonna be there. Whether you like it or not, tomorrow will be there, and so will God, and God will bring you there. There are a lot of lessons that I learned through that program that I'm just incredibly thankful for. During my time at MSU, I continued to make friends, and I also, unfortunately, decided to date someone while I was there. This is something that I'm not really proud of, but I'm also glad it's part of my story. There was this guy there, and him and I like really clicked. You know, he was a gentleman. He was from South Africa, so I don't know, I really took a liking to him. He was very polite, very gentlemanly. He was very sweet, but he was also 5 years younger than me. So, and I never like to put age as like a limiter on a relationship, because there's people who like, whether it's the guy or the girl, like someone's 10 years older than the other person, you know, and like they are just perfect for each other. But this guy was very mature. I knew that him being at MSU, he was there for a reason, and his reason of being there was not to date me. And I think we both selfishly got into this relationship, and like we ended up kind of derailing ourselves from the stuff that God wanted to do in both of us during that year. Because before I got in a relationship with him, I was very like focused on what I wanted to do and who I wanted to become. But then after I started dating him, I started to only like put my time and effort into dating him, and I wasn't ready for that commitment yet. I wanted to be, and I really tried to be the best girlfriend to him, but like it was not my time to make that commitment, and it wasn't his time either. But you know, you live and you learn, and I am thankful for that experience, for however good or bad it was. But there were a lot of signs showing me that he wasn't my husband and wasn't the person that I was supposed to spend my life with, just in the way of like how he treated me, how he made me feel. I never really felt like appreciated in the way I should have been. He had a major addiction to his phone and playing video games, and that really bothered me. I also had a really big issue with lust, and it didn't matter like how many times he fell short or like who counseled him and like told him that, you know, he probably shouldn't be in a relationship right now because he's still like dealing with this stuff. Like I think him and I we were very stubborn, and like we wanted it to work because we just liked each other, but we weren't good for each other. So I ended up dating him for 6 months, and then I broke it off with him. Like, but again, even though I feel like we shouldn't have ever dated, it was an experience that I'm thankful to have, because it showed me like what I don't want in a relationship and what I won't tolerate. So in April of 2021, my friend Liliana started a home group where we would meet up once a week, and we would have Bible study. Some nights we would just worship. Other nights we would have a game night or watch a movie. And Liliana was very intentional with getting us to speak and making sure everyone had a chance to talk, which was great for someone like me who is very introverted and isn't quick to speak up naturally. But she would ask those questions like, what is something you like about yourself? Or what is something you could have done better this week? Or what is God teaching you? And I love those types of questions because you don't always think about stuff like that. My light just shut off. Mateo. So yeah, I found that those nights really helped me a lot. There were times when like I really didn't want to go because of my relationship, and like just my self-confidence was down the drain, and like when I get depressed, I really isolate myself, and like there would be times when like I would text the girls and be like, I'm just really not feeling myself. I really don't feel like being around people. I'm not going to come tonight. And they would still encourage me to come because they knew that being around those girls and like being in that environment was so beneficial for the soul. So like I would still show up, and like every single time I went there, God showed up, and like something good came out of that group. And like I'm just so thankful to have had those experiences with those girls. It really felt like a little family that we had formed. Like we went on trips together, we became really good friends. Unfortunately though, last year my life took a turn for the worst, a very humbling turn, and unfortunately I'm no longer friends with these girls. I will share more about that in another episode. In our next episode, however, I will be sharing with you about my 4-year relationship that turned into a 10-year situationship. Me and this guy, we were best friends from the very first day that we met. I don't believe in soulmates, but if I did, it would have been that guy. We just always had an amazing connection, really great chemistry. And for some reason or another, we would always come back into each other's lives. Whether I reached out to him, whether he reached out to me. You know when they say, like, when you're doing the no contact method, block that person and don't unblock them? My mistake was always unblocking him, because, like, it could be months and I'd be like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to unblock him just in case. And he would reach out to me. And it was just, like, absolutely crazy. But I'll get more into that in our next episode. I will be talking a little bit about soul ties in our next episode, because I believe me and this guy definitely did have a soul tie. Just the coincidences and the things that would synchronously happen between us, like, it was so crazy. Like, it's like stuff that if it happened to anybody else, I wouldn't believe them. But it's absolutely wild, just some of the stuff that happened. So I want to say thank you if you made it to this point in the podcast. Wow, I have been talking for a very, very long time. This is probably my longest podcast. I definitely had fun sharing with you guys in today's episode. I got to talk a little bit about faith and God and everything, and some of my experiences. And so I really enjoyed recording today's podcast for you guys. If you want to continue to listen to the Bespoken Faith podcast, please do subscribe, leave a comment, a review, constructive criticism. I appreciate all and any feedback. Just please be nice. This is my first time doing this, like, legitimately. So I don't have it all figured out yet. I'm just going to kind of learn as I go. But I do thank you for being here, for taking a chance and listening to the things that I have to say. So just thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, if you want to connect with me on a deeper level, or you want to see more of my life, or get in touch with me and reach out to me, the best place to do that is Instagram. My handle is at thegabriellebeth. You can also follow me on TikTok. It's also at thegabriellebeth. And if you want to, on Instagram and TikTok, you can click the link in my bio and find all of my links to everything else that you might need links to. The best way to reach me is on Instagram, because you can send DMs and I can actively check my DMs on there. So I'm gonna go. I appreciate you if you're still here, and I will talk to you in my next podcast. Be blessed, have faith, and I will talk to you very soon.